25 games you must play in 1999. It's the official US PlayStation magazine from July 1999. Alright, I thought I'd do something a little bit different today. Instead of unboxing the game, I thought I'd unbox this sealed magazine. This is officially 20 years old now. That's pretty crazy to think about, isn't it? So, I believe PlayStation Magazine was the first magazine, at least in America, that included a demo disc. So, because of that, they were a little more pricier than other magazines at the time. So, these were $8 back in '99. So, what's that? Maybe like $12, $13 today. So they weren't exactly the cheapest. Anyways, what do we got here on the cover? We've got, first off, we got The Rock. The Rock was like in his prime during this time. From like 99 to like 2001. Those were definitely The Rock's prime years, in my opinion. It was definitely during the Attitude Era, which is probably still the best era today. We have Crash Team Racing, Pac-Man World, Spyro, Squall, Jill, Madden. Yes, Madden NFL was popular at this time. Hard to believe. And then this was right off the heels of Star Wars Episode 1. Anyways, let's open this. This one's already partially open, due from age. So, I find the easiest way is to just kind of pull it at the seams here, very carefully. And there we go. So since this was considered a subscriber issue, they come in these clear bags with like these periodicals on them. The ones that you could buy at the store would have like advertisements of like all the games they would talk about within the magazine. So other than that, that's like the only difference. All right, here we go. so fresh. And so, what do we got here on the demo disc? Playable demos: Ape Escape, Bloody War 2, Croc 2, MLB 2000, and X Tetris. And we have Interplay Sports Baseball 2000, Soul of the Samurai, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and then non-playable is Xena Warrior Princess, Jet Moto 3, Motocross VSX 2, and Street Fighter Alpha 3. Since this is a demo disc, I usually like to keep these sealed. I know it's kind of ironic, but yeah. 9 out of 10 times the demos on these are the same as the retail version. Very rarely are there any differences between it. I think the only one I can think of is maybe the Silent Hill demo disc, but other than that, it's like, what's the point? Let's put that over here. All right. Now, this is by no means a Let's Read. There are plenty of other people who do much better jobs at that, but this is more like a quick skim through of the magazine. So, here we go. So first up, so we have an advertisement for Star Ocean, the second story. Oh, I know what this is. This is Sled Storm. This feels a lot like a precursor to what would become SSX on the PS2. So I'm pretty sure it's developed by the same people before they became EA Sports Big. So I wouldn't be surprised if most of the people who worked on this game went on to work on SSX. We have or the editorial. Croc 2. I never played Croc 2. I played 1. It's an interesting game. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a good game, but it's far from a bad game. It's an interesting game. That's all I have to say about it. I assume 2 is pretty much the same thing. Here's an ad for Street Fighter Alpha 3. Street Fighter Perfection? Not quite. It's not arcade perfect, but it's pretty good. I think the Saturn version is still considered the best, but PlayStation version's pretty decent. Army Men Sergeant Sears. I don't know what happened to this series. It was popular there from during the 90s and early 2000s, then it just kind of died off. But Ape Escape. So we have the table of contents here. And then Fighter Maker. Can't say I ever played this one. I know it's not considered to be anything amazing, but the ability to create your own fighters and with their own moves was pretty neat back then. I believe this came out after RPG Maker. So here we have the letters of the month. More letters. And we have people would send in their artwork, which was pretty amazing most of the times. I'd say even better than the official artwork from the actual company itself. Tilt Force 2. You don't need a joystick to handle these curves. So it's a motion sensing controller. Come on. Come on, that'll never catch on in the future. Monaco Grand Prix, that's interesting, as it shows the box for Nintendo 64 in a PlayStation magazine. Okay. There he is, Kaz Hirai, who I think recently stepped down from Sony. He had been with the company for a long time. But yeah. It's talking about the latest news from E3. And then we have the Pocket Station, which never came to the US, sadly. I don't know why. I hate these, man. They just flop all over the place. We have news. Now that Crash Team Racing is on the way, which genre would you like to see Crash take on next? 2,308 people said RPG. That would be interesting to see if Crash Bandicoot RPG. I'd actually play that. Let's see. Kojima seeking help. Konami's Japan's website is requesting job applications for programmers, graphic designers, and sound editors to work on the next generation Metal Gear. and other unannounced game. Fourth time's a charm. OPN has learned months that a new installment in both Tomb Raider and Twisted Metal franchises are in the works. Tomb Raider 4 and Twisted Metal 4 are guaranteed blockbusters that will sell regardless of their quantity. That's true. But both Twisted Metal 3 and Tomb Raider 3 were a step back in terms of quality. I agree. Tomb Raider 3 it wasn't quite as good as the first two. I know most of the team had left at that point to work on other projects, so it's not bad. It's just, to me, it just wasn't as good. Hopefully, IDOS and 989 can turn things around and remind everyone why these titles got famous in the first place. There you go. Do you think Metal Gear Solid VR Missions is worth buying? In my opinion, yes, it was. So, advertisement for Grand Theft Auto Director's Cut. Visions of E3. I would have loved to go on to an E3 back in like the 90s during this era. It just looked so cool back then. Whereas now E3 has become so boring and bland, and everything's behind closed doors now, and I miss this era of E3, man. There it is, Ape Escape. Top 20. Need for Speed High Stakes, Triple Play 2000. That's surprising, but for some reason, the baseball games are very popular on the PlayStation. Siphon Filter, yes. MLB 2000, there we go again. Army Men 3D. So these discs are like the ratings. So a full disc is a 1, and a half disc is a half. So, for example, they gave Siphon Filter 4 discs, which would be equivalent to an 8 out of 10, which I agree. It's got that. Driver. Never really played the Driver games, but I know it's hilarious. Like when the cops chase after you and they just keep crashing into you. Coming soon. So it talks about all the future releases. There we go. Here's an ad for Air Guys. He's back and he's not alone. Air Guys, God bless the ring. Just an interesting fighting game. It's kind of like Tekken, but kind of not. The biggest selling point was, of course, you could play as Cloud, Sephiroth, or Tifa, or Tifa, however you want to pronounce it. But yeah, it's a pretty fun game, actually. The WWF Attitude. Um, Not the greatest wrestling game on the system, but it's it's okay. This It was before SmackDown came out, so you know you played what you could back then. But yeah, the Attitude Era of wrestling is still by far the best era ever. Anyways, Echo Knight. What's I know it has a cult following. Another game I've never really played, but seems interesting. So we have an ad for a Centipede. So this was when Atari was remaking all their classic games like Centipede and Asteroids and Missile Command, and they were making like updated 3D versions of them for the late '90s. So I think the only one I really played is the Asteroids, and it's okay. You know, it's what you'd expect from a late '90s 3D remake. So we got Ready to Rumble, Crusaders of Might and Magic, Tenchu 2, and Metal Gear Solid VR missions. Evil Zone. Wait. I've played this game. It's okay. What made it stand out is you can use weapons, which I think the only other game that did that at the time was Soul Blade. So other than that, it's okay. It's not bad. It's not great. Lunar 2, Test Drill Off-Road 3, Fisherman's Bait 2, and Silhouette Mirage, which was a treasure game back then. I think the Saturn version is considered better, but come on. How bad can a PlayStation version be? So, more previews. Whew. Here's a preview of Mortal Kombat Special Forces. Ooh boy. It says Tomb Raider meets Metal Gear Solid meets Fatalities in a 3D action game. You can control either Jax or Sonya, each of whom have their patented fighting moves. I hate to admit it, but I somehow, some way, forced myself to actually beat this game. I don't know why. I just did, and it's not good. It's not the worst game ever made, but it's far, far, far from good. Demolition Racer, Spider-Man. This Spider-Man on a PS1 still holds up. It's it still feels very, very modern for, a late 90s PlayStation game. Tail Concerto, I never played, but I know that game's pretty expensive now. Got more of these inserts. And we have an advertisement for the Phantom Menace. Konami Classics Arcade. Time Pilot, Scramble, Super Cobra, Pooyan, Circus Charlie, Gyrus. If any of these names sound familiar, Konami has a treat in store for you. So this was during the era of compilation games of like all the arcade games from the 80s and early 90s. I think Midway was really the first company to start that, but after that, just everybody had to have their own compilations for some reason. Some are good, some are okay. I know these output in 240p, which is how they should be. I know of a lot of compilations like to output in 480i for some reason, and it just looks bad. So that Carmageddon. It's another game that has a cult following. Never played it, but I guess I will one of these days. Hopefully. Toy Story 2 is surprisingly good for what was targeted to mostly to kids. I remember like really getting into it, and it's like this game's pretty cool, but it's for a kids game. So we have collect them all. Back order issues or demo this today. So up to a certain point, you could order back issues. And then once they're officially out of print, you couldn't order any anymore. So this is interesting. So Onimusha for the PlayStation. So Onimusha was originally intended for the PlayStation, and it kept getting delayed and delayed. So since this was 1999 and the PS2 was coming out pretty soon, they decided to just scrap it and just port it over to the PS2. It would have been interesting though if this was released. I'm sure there's a beta disc out there somewhere that I hope somebody finds one day. So I'd really like to know how this game played. We got Legend of Mana, which at the time it came out, it was considered not as good as like Secret of Mana or even Secret of Evermore, but over time, a lot more people have grown to appreciate this game. And because of that, it's one of the more expensive games for the system now. Alright, so here are the reviews. So yeah, this is how they would rate them. 1 disc, 2 disc, 3 disc, 4 disc, and 5 disc was like perfect. So first we have the re-release of Lunar Silver Star Story for the PlayStation, which originally was for the Sega CD. So you got Star Ocean, the second story. It's I believe it's known for having some of the worst voice acting ever in a video game. So some people say that's a bad thing. I say that's a great thing. And then here we have Ape Escape. This game holds up very well for a PlayStation game. It still feels very modern. Like, you need the DualShock controller to play this game. And some people would say, oh, that's just a marketing scheme to get people to buy more DualShock controllers. Not really. It would be a completely different game without it. So, but yeah, this game is still very playable today. I remember getting this, and the first thing that stood out to me the most was the music. It's mostly drum and bass, which at the time I hadn't really heard before in a video game. So I thought that was pretty neat back then. This was made by Japan Studio, I believe. It was one of the earlier games. So they give it a 5 disc, and absolutely, it deserves it. The pros are incredibly fun and responsive control. Ton of different moves, levels, and vehicles, mini games, secrets, and more. Encourage replay. Cons are great graphics occasionally, but rarely show some slowdown or draw in. Camera takes some adjusting. Yeah, but every PlayStation game had not so great camera angles. So if you are at all or have ever been interested in a great platformer for any system, Ape Escape is for you. And I agree. I don't know if I'd put this in my top 10 PS1 games, but definitely top 20 for sure. We got the Croc 2 again. The Centipede. Warzone. GTA London. Ultimate 8-Ball. High Heat Baseball 2000. And here we go. 25 games you must play in 1999. So we got Metal Gear VR missions, Crash Team Racing, Final Fantasy VIII, which I know is kind of a controversial game, but I like it. It's not my favorite Final Fantasy game, but it's not the worst one. Jammerlami, which was a spin-off of Parappa the Rappa. Quake 2, which is a very good port, considering it was designed as a PC game. Most PC games ported to like systems are usually just okay, but this one is surprisingly good. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, Wipeout 3, Gran Turismo 2, which is one of the best-selling games on the system. Driver, Star Wars Episode 1, NFL Game Day 2000, Pac-Man World. You wouldn't think a 3D platformer based on Pac-Man would be any good, but it's pretty good. And then Spiral 2. Spiral 2 is pretty much the same as the first. I didn't quite like it as the first one. Maybe because there's a lot of side quests you have to do in this game now, and you have to gather like a bunch of gems to pay off money bags just to advance to like the next area. And I don't know, I like the first game better. But if people want to say Spiral 2 is the best in the series, I'm perfectly fine with that. WWF Attitude. Which, as I said before, it's okay. It's not bad, but it's not the best wrestling game on the system. Omega Boost, which was made by Polyphony Digital. I think this might be still their only game, their only non-racing game they've created. I don't know why they haven't revisited this game. Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver. This is often considered like the top 10 games on the system for sure. It is. It's pretty good. I don't know if I'd put it in my top 10. I can see maybe in the top 20. But yeah, it's another PS1 game that holds up really well today. The graphics are amazing for PS1, and the voice acting for this game is still holds up really well. I even say it's better than the voice acting in some modern games. They really went above and beyond to make sure this game was special, and it definitely delivered. A big upgrade from Blood Omen, in my opinion. Okay. East Combat 3. NFL Blitz was very popular around this time. I think the series was probably more popular on the Dreamcast than it was on the PlayStation. Yeah. Dino Crisis, which a lot of people like to say it's Resident Evil with dinosaurs, and yeah, it pretty much is. Fear Factor, which became Fear Effect. They had to change the name for obvious reasons due to the TV show that was on at the time. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, which before this time, skateboarding games were just okay. They weren't anything special, but this completely changed the genre. It made it like more arcadey, I guess. And the first, I don't know, the first 2 and 3 Tony Hawk games hold up really well today. After that, it's kind of the series went in a different direction, but the original Tony Hawk games are still amazing today. Dragon Valor. Madden NFL 2000. We have Grandia. R-Type Delta, which is an amazing game. Probably the second best in the series, I'd say. I think R-Type 3 is often considered the best, but this is a damn good shooter, man. It's hard. It's definitely hard, but it's good. There. And then it's talking about games that were close to being in a top 25. Too early to tell. And then ePlay. So this is obviously poking fun at eBay. Just the weird amount of stuff you'd find on there. Just various PlayStation accessories. We got Mega Man Legends stand-up poster. That's something I wouldn't mind having. That would look awesome. Retail value $20. It's worth a lot more than that now. So videogames.com was GameSpot before it became GameSpot. Street Fighter Alpha 3. Tells you all the moves and strategies for each character. I know Alpha 3 is considered the best of the Alpha series. I personally like Alpha 2 the best. But yeah, there's a lot of characters in this game, so I can see why people love it so much. Here we have strategies for Need for Speed High Stakes. Never really got into the Need for Speed series for some reason. I was always more of a F-Zero and Mario Kart person, I guess. So, strategies. Tricks of the trade. So this was still like in the era of like cheat codes, where I don't think most modern games don't even have cheat codes anymore. It's kind of sad, but it is what it is. Of course, since it was the 90s still, we had to have hotlines. Cheat code books. So since this was very close to episode 1, Star Wars became very popular again. So demo disc tells you what to expect on there. And next month, so it looks like next month they're going to talk about Ace Combat, Metal Gear Solid VR missions, and Final Fantasy VIII. So I'll be looking forward to it. And last but not least, an advertisement for Paperboy. Anyways, there you have it. PlayStation Magazine from July 1999.